The forest was silent, but not the silence of peace. It was the silence of danger. Tall alien trees stood like giant guards, their leaves glowing faint blue under the twin moons. The air smelled of damp soil and strange flowers that opened only at night. Every sound, the crack of a twig, the whisper of wind, felt louder in this place. A human traveler walked carefully on the narrow path. His boots pressed softly against the moss, leaving faint prints behind. He was far from home, far from Earth, exploring lands that most humans never dared to enter. His eyes moved from shadow to shadow, his hand resting on the small blade at his belt. He had learned to trust no forest, no silence, and then he heard it, a voice, small, weak, trembling. "Human, please help. My mom's foot hurts." The man froze. His heart jumped, his body tense like a drawn bow. He turned his head quickly, trying to find the source of the sound. The words were clear yet strange, spoken in broken human tongue. "Human. Please, my mom," the voice cried again, filled with panic. The traveler pushed aside thick leaves. His eyes fell upon a child, an alien child. The little one's skin shimmered faint silver, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes were wide, large and bright, reflecting both fear and hope. She wore simple cloth, torn and dirty, and her small hands shook as she pointed toward the ground ahead. The human stepped closer, his breath steady but his mind racing. Was this real, or was it a trap? Many stories told of alien hunters using children as bait, yet the tears on the girl's face looked too real, too raw, too desperate. "What happened?" the human asked, his voice low but calm. The child's lips trembled. "My mom, she fell in the trap." Her words were broken but clear enough. She pointed again, this time to a shadowed pit between the trees. The human walked slowly toward it, each step careful. As he leaned over, his eyes widened. There, at the bottom of a deep, savage hole lined with sharpened stakes, lay a woman. An alien woman, her skin glowing the same silver as the child's. She was bleeding, her leg pierced by cruel spikes. She clutched the edge of the pit weakly, her breaths heavy, her face pale. The girl cried louder now, running to the edge. "Please, human. My mom's foot hurts. Help her!" The human's chest tightened. He had seen traps like this before, vicious, made not just to catch but to torture. Whoever set it wanted prey to suffer. He looked around the forest. The silence felt heavier now, almost watching him. If this was a hunter's ground, then the hunters might already be near. The alien woman raised her head slowly. Her voice was faint but strong with pain. "Don't stay. It's dangerous. They will come back." The human clenched his fists. His instincts screamed to leave, to run before danger arrived. Yet his heart refused. He saw the child's tears, the mother's suffering, and memories of his own family rose inside him. His mother's smile, his father's voice. Could he abandon them? The girl grabbed his arm, her tiny hands shaking. "Please, don't let her die." He sighed, the weight of choice heavy on his shoulders. "All right," he whispered. "I will help." The girl's eyes widened, filled with hope. She nodded quickly, stepping back to give him space. The human tied a rope to a nearby tree and lowered himself into the pit. The smell of blood and dirt hit him strongly. The alien woman looked at him with weak, tired eyes. Why would a human help me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Because you asked," he said simply. He carefully examined her leg. The spike had gone deep, tearing through flesh. He broke the wood with his blade, freeing her from the sharp point. She gasped but stayed silent, her strength impressive even in pain. "Hold on to me," the man said. He lifted her slowly onto his back. She was heavier than she looked, but he did not falter. With steady movements, he climbed the rope, pulling both of them out of the trap. The child rushed forward, hugging her mother's arm. "Mom!" she cried, relief pouring out in her tears. The woman touched her child's face gently, then looked at the human. "You should go," she whispered. "Hunters, they will not forgive you for this." The man looked around again. The forest felt alive, shadows moving just beyond sight. He could almost hear distant footsteps, faint but real. The girl's small hand grabbed his again. "Don't leave us," she begged. The human tightened his grip on his blade, his eyes scanning the dark trees. Something was coming. He could feel it. The silence was gone now. In its place was the sound of danger, creeping closer with every breath, and the night was only beginning. The forest no longer felt empty. Every shadow now seemed alive, every rustle in the leaves sounded like footsteps. The human's heart beat heavy as he helped the alien woman sit against the trunk of a glowing tree. The child clung tightly to her mother's hand, her silver eyes wet with tears but shining with hope. The man crouched beside them, checking the wound again. The mother's leg was bleeding badly. The spike had torn muscle and the trap had left deep cuts. She could not walk on her own. He pressed a strip of cloth against the wound to slow the bleeding. "Stay still," he said softly. The woman's breathing was uneven. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered. "The hunters set this trap. They will smell blood. They will come back." The child shook her head fiercely. "No, human will protect us," he strong. The human glanced at her, and for the first time a small smile touched his lips. "I'll try," he replied. But deep inside he knew the danger was real. Savage traps were never left without watchers. Whoever had set it would return. And soon. The man looked at the pit again. It was cruel, sharp stakes at every angle hidden under leaves so no one could see it until too late. This was not made to hunt animals. It was made for people. Intelligent prey. He noticed something else. Around the pit, faint marks on the soil, footprints heavy, large, and many of them. The hunters who built this were not one or two. They were a group. His stomach tightened. He turned back to the woman. "Who are they?" Her eyes narrowed with pain and fear. "Raiders. They take everything. Food, people, children. They set traps to catch the weak." The child whimpered, holding tighter to her mother. "They wanted us." "But you came first, human." The man's jaw tightened. He scanned the dark forest, every sense alert. Somewhere far away, a faint horn echoed, low and long. The sound carried through the trees like a warning. The alien mother's face turned pale. "They're calling each other. They know something fell in their trap." The human rose quickly. "We can't stay here." He helped the woman stand, supporting her weight on his arm. She winced but kept silent, her strength surprising him. The child walked beside them, her small hand gripping his sleeve. Step by step they moved through the forest. The man tried to keep their path light, but the blood dripping from the woman's wound left a dark trail on the moss. He cursed under his breath. The hunters would find it easily. Behind them, the sound of movement grew louder. Leaves cracked, branches broke, voices whispered in a strange alien tongue. They were being followed. The child looked up at him with wide eyes. "Are they close?" He did not answer. Instead, he tightened his grip on his blade and kept moving faster. Suddenly, the forest opened into a small clearing. Moonlight spilled over the ground, revealing more traps. Nets tied to branches, pits covered with thin wood, and sharp wires stretched between trees. The man's breath caught. It was a killing field, a place designed to trap anyone foolish enough to pass through. He stopped the others. "Don't move." The child looked confused. "Why?" He pointed at the ground. "Because this place will eat us alive if we take one wrong step." Carefully, he studied the traps. His eyes moved like a hunter's, tracing lines of rope, shadows of pits. He saw the design. These raiders were clever. The traps were layered, each one leading to another. If someone escaped the pit, they would fall into the net. If they cut the net, spikes would fall from above. He muttered. "Savages," the mother whispered weakly. "This is why no one travels these woods. They own it." The man crouched, picking up a small stone. He tossed it forward. The stone hit the ground and instantly the earth gave way, revealing another pit filled with sharpened bones. The child gasped. "We can't go through," she whispered. The man's eyes hardened. "Then we go around." But as he turned, he froze. From the trees behind them, shadows moved. Figures stepped out, tall, armored, with glowing red eyes. Alien raiders, their weapons sharp and cruel, their faces twisted with hunger. They had followed the blood. The horn sounded again, this time closer. The child clung to her mother, trembling. "They're here!" The man stepped forward, his blade shining faintly in the moonlight. He placed himself between the hunters and the injured woman. The raiders laughed, their voices low and mocking. One of them pointed at the human. "Leave her. Run, human. This is not your fight." The man's grip on his weapon tightened. His eyes burned with defiance. "No," he said firmly. "It is my fight now." The raiders snarled, circling the clearing. The traps around them seemed to wait, hungry for victims. The child buried her face against her mother's arm, whispering, "Please, human, don't let them take us." And the night grew darker as the true danger of the savage trap closed in. The raiders stepped closer, their shadows stretching long across the glowing ground. Their armor was patched from many battles, covered with scars and blood marks. In their hands they carried cruel weapons, hooks, spears, and chains. Their eyes burned red in the moonlight, filled with hunger and cruelty. The human stood tall, his blade ready. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths, but his mind raced. He was one man. They were many. He could run and save his life. But behind him, the alien woman lay weak and bleeding, and her child clung to her with desperate trust. If he ran now, they would be taken. The raiders spread out, circling. One of them spoke in a deep growl. "Leave her, human. She is not your kind. Walk away and live." The man did not move. His voice was firm. "She is a mother, and she asked for help." The raiders laughed harshly. Their laughter echoed through the trees, cruel and sharp. "Foolish human. Do you think you can fight us all? This is our land. These are our traps. Everything here belongs to us." The man's grip tightened on his blade. He glanced at the mother and child. The girl's silver eyes were wide with fear, but when she looked at him, he saw something else. A spark of faith. She believed he would not leave them. That was enough. The raiders moved closer. The man raised his blade. His body tensed like a coiled spring. But then he saw something. Rope stretched above, branches tied with heavy rocks. The traps around them were not just danger. They could also be used as weapons. His mind sharpened. He did not have to fight them head-on. He only had to outsmart them. He took a slow step backward toward one of the hidden ropes. The raiders mistook it for fear. They sneered, moving faster, eager to catch him. The alien woman weakly called out, "Human! Run, save yourself," but he shook his head. "No, I choose to fight." One raider lunged forward, swinging a chain. The man ducked low and rolled aside. His blade flashed, cutting the rope of a nearby trap. A heavy log swung down from above, slamming into the raider's chest. The creature screamed, knocked into the pit of spikes. The other raiders growled in anger, surprised by his trick. The child gasped, her fear turning into sudden hope. Another raider charged, spear raised high. The man sidestepped, pushing the alien mother gently to the ground. With a quick strike, he slashed the spear's shaft, breaking it in half. Then he kicked the raider backward, right into a net trap that lifted the creature screaming into the air. The forest came alive with chaos, but the raiders were many. More shadows appeared, stepping out from the trees. The horn blew again, louder this time, calling the others to join. The human's arms ached, his breath grew heavy, but his resolve did not break. He stood over the mother and child like a wall, blade raised. The child whispered, "He fights for us, even though we are strangers." The mother, pale with pain, nodded faintly. "Humans are dangerous in ways we never knew." The raiders regrouped, snarling. Their leader, a tall figure with jagged armor, stepped forward. His eyes glowed brighter than the rest. "Enough tricks, human. You cannot save them. You cannot save yourself." The man's gaze was steady. "We'll see." He looked at the blood trail on the ground. Too bright. Too clear. If they stayed, more raiders would come. He needed to move the mother and child out of the trap field. But carrying her meant slowing down. His choice was cruel but clear. Leave the mother, save himself and maybe the child. Or risk his life to save them both. The child looked at him, tears streaming down her silver cheeks. "Please, don't let them take my mom." His heart clenched. In that small voice, he heard his own childhood, his own cries long ago when he needed someone to protect him. He knew his answer. With a sharp breath, he lifted the mother onto his back again. She winced but did not protest. He held the child's hand tightly in his free one. Then, with sudden speed, he dashed toward the edge of the clearing. The raiders shouted in anger, chasing after him. Spears flew through the air, striking trees, missing him by inches. He ducked under low branches, leaped over roots, his strength driven by sheer will. Behind him, the forest traps triggered again, nets snapping, logs swinging, pits breaking open. Some raiders fell to their own devices, caught in the chaos, but others pushed forward, relentless. The human's legs burned, his breath tore through his chest, but he did not stop. The child ran beside him, small legs moving fast, her face set with determination. Finally, they burst into another part of the forest. It was darker here, the trees closer, the path narrow. The man stopped for a moment, placing the mother gently on the ground. The child clung to her arm. The woman looked at the human with tired but grateful eyes. "You could have left us," she whispered. The man shook his head. "I made my choice." And as the distant horn blew once more, closer than ever, he realized the fight was far from over. The hunters would not stop. The chase had only begun. The forest was no longer silent. It echoed with the sound of horns and angry cries. The human could hear the raiders spreading out. their voices bouncing through the trees. They were hunting, and the prey was him. The alien mother leaned weakly against a tree, her breath uneven. Her leg was wrapped with a cloth, but blood still seeped through. The child knelt beside her, wiping tears with her small hands. "Mom, don't sleep," she whispered, shaking her gently. The human crouched close, his blade still in his hand. His chest rose and fell fast, sweat dripping down his forehead. He scanned the shadows, trying to judge how close the hunters were. They didn't have much time, he thought quickly. Carrying the mother meant moving slowly, but leaving her behind was not an option. He could not betray the trust in the child's eyes. He tore strips of vine from a nearby tree and made a sling around his shoulders. "This will hold her," he said. His voice was calm, but his hands worked fast. He lifted the woman carefully, setting her weight across his back. The child grabbed his arm. "I'll help guide," she said bravely. He gave a short nod. "Stay close. Don't let go." They began to move again. The human stepped carefully, avoiding dried branches that could snap under his boots. The child pointed the way, leading him through paths only locals knew. But danger followed. The raiders' cries grew louder, closer. Branches broke in the distance. The hunters were spreading like wolves, driving them forward into another trap. The human felt it. Something about the path was wrong. The trees grew too thin, the ground too smooth. His instincts screamed, "Stop," he whispered. The child froze. "What is it?" He crouched, brushing his hand across the soil. Beneath the thin layer of leaves he felt tension, a hidden rope. He traced it with his eyes until he saw where it led, up into the branches above, connected to a net filled with sharpened stones. He let out a breath. "They're trying to funnel us." Suddenly a spear flew past, slamming into the tree beside him. The child screamed. The raiders were here. The human lifted the mother higher on his back and ran forward. He ducked under the rope and pulled the child close. Another spear cut the air, grazing his arm. Pain burned, but he didn't slow. Behind them, the trap triggered. The net dropped with a crash, smashing into the ground where they had stood seconds earlier. The forest shook with the force. The raiders shouted in frustration, their footsteps quickening. The human pushed harder, lungs burning. Every step felt heavier with the injured woman on his back, but he refused to stop. Then the ground changed. It sloped downward, rocky and uneven. The child stumbled but caught herself, her small voice shouting, "This way! A hidden stream is near!" They slid down the slope. At the bottom, water shimmered faintly under the moonlight. A narrow stream cutting through the forest floor. The human knelt and let the mother rest against a rock. The water was cold, clean. He dipped a cloth in it and pressed it against her wound, washing away the blood. She winced but nodded weakly in thanks. The child knelt beside him, her eyes shining. "You saved her again," he shook his head. "Not yet. We're still being hunted." The forest answered his words with another horn. This time it was very close. The child's face went pale. "They're coming." The human rose to his feet, gripping his blade. He looked around quickly, searching for anything he could use. His eyes fell on the stream, narrow but fast, rushing over jagged rocks. An idea came to him. Risky, but maybe their only chance. He turned to the mother. "Can you hold on to me?" She nodded faintly, her strength nearly gone, but her will still alive. He looked at the child. "Can you swim?" She shook her head. "No, but I can hold you tight." "Good," he said firmly. "Then stay close." He lifted the mother once more, tied her tightly with vines so she would not slip. The child wrapped her arms around his waist. With one deep breath, he stepped into the rushing water. The cold hit him like a knife, but he pushed forward. The stream pulled at his legs, dragging hard, but he leaned into it, letting the water carry them away from the raiders. Behind them, the hunters broke into the clearing. Their red eyes glowed as they spotted the trail. One of them shouted, pointing at the water. Arrows flew, splashing into the stream around them. The child buried her face against his back, trembling. The mother clung to him weakly. The human gritted his teeth, pushing forward. The water roared louder, pulling faster, carrying them deeper into the forest. The raiders' shouts grew fainter behind them, lost in the sound of rushing water. But as the stream bent sharply, the human saw something ahead that made his chest tighten. The water ended in a sudden drop, a waterfall. The roar of water filled the night air. The human's boots slipped on wet stones as the stream carried them closer to the edge. The alien child clung to his waist tightly, her tiny fingers digging into his shirt. On his back, the mother whispered through her pain, We are falling." The human's eyes locked on the rushing drop ahead. The waterfall glowed silver under the moons, falling into a dark mist far below. The stream gave him no choice. It pulled them closer and closer. Behind them, shouts of the raiders echoed. Some had reached the water's edge, firing arrows that hissed into the stream. Others tried to follow, splashing into the current. The human knew they had seconds left. "Hold on," he shouted. And then they fell. The water crashed down with thunder. Cold waves slammed into his body as they plunged through mist into the pool below. The child screamed but held tight. The alien mother gasped, her weak arms gripping his shoulders. The human hit the pool hard, sinking deep into the cold dark. His chest burned as he kicked upward, dragging the mother and child with him. Finally, he broke the surface, gasping for air. The child coughed, spitting water. We lived." But the human's relief was short. Above them, the raiders appeared at the edge of the waterfall. Their red eyes glowed in the mist. Some began climbing down the rocks, slow but steady. They had not given up. The human swam to the bank, pulling the mother gently onto dry ground. She lay on the moss, pale and weak, her leg bleeding again from the fall. The child knelt beside her, whispering, "Mom, stay awake, please." The man rose, gripping his blade once more. His body was cold, his muscles heavy, but his eyes were sharp. The forest here was darker, thicker. The mist from the waterfall covered the air, making it hard to see. It was both danger and cover. He turned to the child. "Stay with her. Don't move until I return." The girl's silver eyes widened. "Where are you going?" He looked toward the sound of the raiders climbing down. "To make sure they don't reach you." He moved into the mist like a shadow. The roar of water drowned the noise of his steps. He crouched low, watching the dark figures descending the rocks. Their armor clinked softly, their voices growled in anger. One raider reached the bottom first, stepping onto the wet stones. His spear glowed faintly red. He sniffed the air, following the smell of blood. The human moved quickly. He slipped behind the raider and, with one clean strike, cut the straps of the beast's armor. The heavy plates fell, and before the raider could turn, the man pushed him hard into the stream. The current pulled the creature away, his scream lost under the waterfall's roar. The others shouted in alarm. The human used the mist as his ally, darting between rocks, striking fast and vanishing before the raiders could see him clearly. He kicked one into the pool below, broke another's spear and cut the ropes on his pack so he lost balance and tumbled into the water. But more kept coming. For every one he stopped, two more appeared. At last their leader reached the ground. Taller than the rest, his armor black and jagged, his eyes burning like fire. He stepped into the mist, scanning the shadows. "Human!" the leader roared. "You think tricks will save you? No mist can hide your fear." The human stayed silent, his blade steady. Meanwhile, the child held her mother's hand tightly. "He's fighting them," she whispered. "He's not running." The mother opened her eyes weakly. "That's what makes him dangerous. Not his blade, but his choice." The sounds of battle echoed around them. Metal clashing, shouts of anger, splashes of bodies hitting water. The girl trembled but refused to look away. Suddenly, a raider broke through the mist near them. His red eyes locked onto the injured woman. He raised his spear. The child screamed, "No!" But before the weapon could fall, the human appeared, slamming his shoulder into the raider and knocking him backward into the rocks. The spear clattered uselessly to the ground. He stood over the mother and child, chest heaving, blood on his arm. His eyes burned with fire. "You will not touch them." The leader stepped out of the mist, his cruel smile sharp. "Brave words, human, but you cannot fight us all. The forest belongs to us. The traps belong to us, and soon, they will belong to your bones." The human raised his blade, planting his feet firmly. "Then come and try." The raiders began to close in, circling the poolside, their eyes glowing in the mist. The child held her mother tightly, whispering prayers. The alien woman looked at the human's back and felt something stir in her chest, something she had never felt before. Hope. The night air grew colder, the mist heavier, as the chase turned into a standoff. And deep inside, the human knew this fight was far from over. The mist thickened around the pool, curling like white smoke under the twin moons. The roar of the waterfall shook the air, but beneath it came another sound. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, and many. The raiders had arrived, their glowing red eyes cut through the fog like burning coals. Blades and spears gleamed faintly as they spread out, circling the human, the alien mother, and the child. The leader stepped forward. His armor was jagged and black, carved with cruel markings. His mouth curled in a sharp smile. "You fight like a beast, human. But beasts always bleed, and you are already bleeding." The man glanced at the cut on his arm, blood dripping down his hand. He tightened his grip on the blade. His voice was steady. "I'm still standing," the raiders growled. The circle tightened. The alien child pressed herself against her mother, whispering, "He will win. He must." The mother stroked her daughter's hair weakly, her silver eyes fixed on the human's back. "He is one against many," she murmured. "But sometimes, one is enough." The first raider attacked. He lunged from the mist, spear aimed at the man's chest. The human sidestepped quickly, grabbing a loose rock from the ground. With a powerful swing, he smashed it against the raider's helmet. The creature staggered, falling into the pool with a splash. Another raider came from behind, chain whipping through the air. The man ducked, the chain wrapping around a tree trunk. Before the raider could pull it back, the human yanked hard, slamming the raider's face into the bark. But more came. 3 at once. Spears thrusting, claws slashing. The human blocked one strike with his blade, dodged another, but the third grazed his shoulder. Pain burned, but he did not stop. He pushed forward, driving his blade into the ground, cutting another trap rope hidden beneath the leaves. A heavy log swung down, smashing into 2 raiders at once. Their screams echoed through the mist. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Clever human," he growled. "Using our traps against us." The man raised his blade again. "Then maybe you should have built smarter traps." The raiders snarled in rage. Their leader signaled, and more hunters closed in. The mother struggled to rise, but pain held her down. She whispered to her child, "Stay low. Don't make a sound." But the child's hands shook. Her small voice trembled. "He can't fight them all." Her mother's eyes softened. "Then pray he fights like no one else can." The human's chest heaved. His arms grew heavy. Every breath felt like fire. But his mind was sharp. He did not fight like a warrior of numbers. He fought like a survivor. He grabbed a broken spear from the ground, hurling it like a javelin. It struck one raider in the chest, knocking him backward into the stream. He rolled aside as another came charging, pulling a vine tight across the ground. The raider tripped, crashing into the rocks. The man stomped down hard, ending the fight. The forest seemed to rage around them, metal clashing, shouts echoing, bodies falling. Yet the raiders still outnumbered him. At last, the leader stepped forward himself. His massive blade gleamed red in the moonlight. "Enough games, human." The circle of raiders pulled back, giving their master space. The mist swirled between them like a curtain. The human stood tall, blade in hand, face calm. He looked at the leader, then at the mother and child behind him. He saw their fear. He saw their hope, and he knew this fight was not just about survival. It was about choice. He raised his weapon. "Come then," the leader charged, swinging his great blade. The man blocked with all his strength, the impact shaking through his arms. Sparks flew. The ground trembled. The leader swung again, faster, heavier. Each strike forced the human back, step by step, closer to the edge of the pool. His feet slipped on wet stone, but he held firm. The child cried out, "Don't fall!" The man steadied himself, waiting, watching. Then he saw it, a crack in the rocks behind the leader, steam rising faintly. Hot groundwater, a weak spot in the earth. He changed his stance, luring the leader closer to it. The leader roared, raising his blade for a final strike. The human ducked aside at the last moment, driving his shoulder into the raider's chest. The massive figure stumbled, slamming his heavy foot into the cracked stone. The ground gave way. With a deafening crack, hot water and steam exploded upward. The leader roared in shock as the earth crumbled beneath him. He fell hard into the boiling pool, screaming as the mist swallowed him. The other raiders froze. Their leader's voice faded into the roar of the waterfall. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of steam. The human stood tall, chest heaving, blade dripping with both blood and water. He turned toward the mother and child. Their eyes were wide, their breaths caught. The child whispered, He beat their leader." The mother's voice shook, filled with awe. "No, he became their nightmare." The remaining raiders growled, uncertain. Without their leader, they hesitated. Their circle broke, shadows pulling back into the mist. The confrontation in the dark was over. For now. But the human knew this was not the end. Not yet. The mist was slowly fading. The roar of the waterfall still filled the night, but the sound of raiders' horns had gone quiet. The shadows that had circled them moments ago were retreating into the forest. Without their leader, the hunters no longer pressed forward. The human lowered his blade, chest heaving, arms trembling. His body was covered in cuts and bruises, his breath raw, yet his eyes were sharp, steady, unbroken. Behind him, the alien child crawled to her mother's side. "Mom, we are safe now. Aren't we?" The mother pulled her daughter close, her weak hand brushing the child's hair. Her voice was faint but filled with awe. "Safe, because he stood between us and death." The girl looked at the human's back, her silver eyes wide with wonder. "He fights like 10 men, but he is only one." The human turned, kneeling beside them. He checked the woman's wound again. It was still bleeding, though slower now. He tore another strip of cloth, pressing it tightly. "We can't stay here," he said firmly. "More will come." The mother looked at him with tired eyes. "Why? Why risk your life for us?" "We are not your people," he met her gaze. "Because you asked for help." That was enough. The woman's lips parted, but no words came. She lowered her head, humbled by the simplicity of his answer. The child tugged on his sleeve. "But where will we go?" "The forest belongs to them. They'll hunt us again." The human looked into the dark trees. His jaw tightened. "Then we make it clear this forest is not theirs anymore." The girl blinked, confused. "How?" The man rose to his feet, gripping his blade once more. His voice was low but filled with iron. "By showing them what it means to face a human." Not long after, the raiders' horns blew again, closer this time. The survivors had regrouped. Their footsteps thundered in the distance, spreading through the woods. The mother tried to rise, but her leg betrayed her. She whispered urgently, "You cannot face them all." The man shook his head. "I don't need to face them all. I only need to remind them why they should never face me again." He pulled the child close, his voice steady. "Stay with your mother. No matter what you hear, do not move until I return." The girl's lip trembled. "But what if they hurt you?" He gave her the faintest smile. "Then I will hurt them worse." The forest darkened with the approach of the raiders. Red eyes glowed between the trees. Weapons gleamed in the moonlight. They came with fury, snarling, certain their prey was cornered. But the man did not wait for them to surround him. He struck first. He moved like a storm, fast, fierce, relentless. He set their own traps against them, cutting ropes, swinging logs, leading them into pits. Spears missed him by inches. Chains cracked the air. But he slipped through like a shadow. He fought not with numbers, but with will. Every strike of his blade carried not just strength, but defiance. His arms burned, his body screamed in pain, but he refused to fall. The raiders howled in rage as their numbers thinned. They had faced beasts, soldiers, even war machines before. But this human fought with something else. Something they could not understand. Something that made him unbreakable. At last, silence fell. The ground was littered with broken weapons, fallen bodies, and snapped ropes. The few raiders who still stood backed away slowly, fear replacing fury. The human raised his blade high, his voice cutting through the night. "This forest is not yours. Not while I stand. Not while I breathe." The raiders snarled but did not attack. Their leader was gone, their numbers broken, and their will shattered. One by one they melted back into the shadows, their red eyes vanishing into the mist. The man staggered, his legs nearly giving way. Blood dripped from his arm, his chest heaved with exhaustion. Yet he did not fall until he reached the alien mother and child. The girl rushed forward, grabbing his hand. "You came back. You beat them all." The mother's eyes filled with tears. She reached out, touching his shoulder gently. "You should not have survived. But you did. Why?" The man sank to one knee, his blade resting against the ground. His voice was quiet, but carried a weight that shook her heart. "Because everything is a weapon to a human. Our hands, our minds, even our will. And tonight, my will was stronger than theirs." The child hugged him tightly, her small arms around his neck. "Thank you, human. You saved my mom. You saved me." For a moment, the man closed his eyes. He felt the warmth of her tiny embrace, the gratitude of the mother, the silence of the forest now free from the hunters, and he knew it was worth every scar. The mother whispered, her voice trembling with respect. "You are not just human, you are hope." The man rose slowly, lifting the woman again onto his back, holding the child's hand in his own. Together they walked into the forest, away from the traps, away from the fear. The raiders would remember this night. They would whisper of the lone human who stood against them, who turned their savage traps into their graves. And somewhere under the twin moons, the legend of humanity's strength had just begun.